fast.
Good morning. All right, good morning. Today should be around 20 minutes. This is Hashem.
Ready? Where's our top?
Yeah, I think I threw it already. All right, don't worry about it.
Are you
All right.
toppering or getting ready? I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right, so we got to 4 lines from the top on Chaf. Chaf
6 or 8, Rebbe.
6. So we discussed yesterday. We were talking about walls, and then all of a sudden we're talking. Okay, for something to go through Tuma, to go through a wall, to travel through a wall, if it's under the same ohel, the same roof.
Page?
Chaf.
Oh,
Page Chaf. 4 lines from the top.
Close to testing.
So he said that if there's a space of 1 tavach by 1 tavach, then Tuma travels through and is matami everything on the other side. But if it's a little smaller, then it doesn't go through. So the question is, if it's 1 by 1, but there's something on the edge, so if that item is not makabel Tuma and it won't be removed from there, then it would block the Tuma. So now, if you have let's say grass that was plucked, placed in this window space in this 1 by 1 area, we have a whole list of items. Oh, and the things that are not makabel tuma, they're not considered to be in a food category or a flea category, or not a person, or the grass grew by the windows, or you have little rags that are not 3 by 3 etzbos, or you have limbs or flesh hanging from an animal, or a bird resting in the window. We're going to the Gemara is going to ask on each one of these. So save your questions. The also an that is blocking, that's sitting in the window, that's blocking this space. Or a baby that was born to a mother who was pregnant for 8 months. Now we say that a person is makabel tuma, right? But only a child is ben kaima if the mother carried 7 months or 9 months. If it's 8 months, it's underdeveloped, and there are certain types of babies that only need 7 months, but this is not it because it's already past 7 months. So 8 months, there's a chazaka that the baby is going to die. If the baby is going to die, it's not a viable person in order that it should be makabel tuma. So you have a child, blocking this window, v'hamelach, or salt, v'kli cheres, an earthenware vessel, a sefer Torah, kulam mati mechalom. All of these diminish the space in the window. But if you have snow or hail, right, or sleet, or any of these waters that are sitting there, kulam ein mati mechalom. None of them are mayit in the in the window. So the Gemara says, now we said yesterday, if it's something that someone is going to go ahead and remove, right? If we said it's a nice piece of a wedding cake, someone's going to go ahead and remove it from there, and then the space will be open. So then, so they'll be tummy. So the grass is there. Aren't they going to go ahead and move the grass? The answer is, grass is fit for feeding animals, so he's going to remove it. So our answer is we're talking about grass that's not good for the animals, right? It's poisonous. Oh, shalom alein. So then it says, okay, if they're growing their own, I came in the question of the kaisa shaklu, but if the grass is growing on the wall, right, then it's not good for it. The owner of the wall is going to go ahead and remove it. So we're talking about a wall of something that arises from a destruction, and therefore there's already grass growing there and stuff, and it's not damaging to the wall. Even if it's a regular wall, right? It was something that grew, like we saw earlier. You can grow things more than 3 tefachim. So anything more than 3 tefachim is not damaging to the wall. So therefore, this grass is not damaging to the wall. So Gar says, what about the rags? Is that chazale? Can't you use it for sewing, right? Sewing a patch onto clothing. So our answer is b'semichta. We're talking about where it's thick. So and therefore, where it's thick, you can't really go ahead and sew it on. Now that can be used for let's say a bloodletter. You can use it as like a gauze. So my answer is bariska. We're talking about something which is like sackcloth, and it's scrapes. Bariska shema shalosh. So if sackcloth, that shear is not 3x3 etzbos that it should ask. It should say shemen arba. It's 4x4 tefachim. It's much larger. So why the Bryce? Why the Bryce or Mishnah? Right? Why the Bryces say 3 by a rag, right, of sackcloth is not 3x3. It should be a rag of sackcloth is not 4x4, 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim. So it says so where it says Kain Riska. No, it's like sackcloth in terms of the fact that it's very rough in the skin, but however, it is not actually sackcloth, which is 4x4 tefachim. Rather, it's a way of becoming a kli, becoming a garment is 3x3. And then we said so it says, okay, you have a limb or flesh hanging from an animal, a live animal. So Mara says, Arka, the animal's going to run away. So how is it going to block? It's not going to remain there. Arka is going to run away. So our answer is, but true, it's tied down there. I shafile is going to go ahead and shaf. The answer is betmeya. We're talking about an animal which is tame, right? So non-kosher animal. So so it's going to be removed because someone's going to go ahead and sell it to a nacher. Our answer is bechusha. It's a weakened, thin one, which is not going to be sold for meat. So pasik shadi lei the kalav. He's going to go ahead and throw it to the dogs. So my answer is no. Kevin gets balachayim lo oven. Since by giving it to throwing out the limbs and stuff, removing it to throwing it to the animal will cause a pain and anguish to the animal. Therefore, one will not go ahead and do it. So now we'll move on to the next one. The oath. And it comes to a bird.
Amen. Wow.
The oath. So if the bird, it diminishes the space. Gemara says sha'ai sheshakim b'chalon, right? It's sitting in the window. So Gemara says parach, it's going to fly away. Parach v'yazim. So our answer is bekosher. It's tied. Shachle is going to go ahead and shaft it and take it and remove it. So Gemara says betami, we're talking about a non-kosher bird. Mazel lenach. He's going to go ahead and sell to a nach, right? Beklunisa. We're talking about a bird like a thinly bird, which one would not eat. So Gemara says yaivle yanuka. He's going to go ahead and give it to a child to play, a nice little toy. Why it says b'misarit. So it's going to scratch. It's a scratching bird, and therefore it's not going to give it to a child to play. So it says kal yosa misarta. But if it was a weakened bird, those don't scratch. So the Ran says kain kal yosa means that it was a type of bird that scratches, but it's very thin and weak or whatever. Not a lot of meat on it. They'll be sold for its meat. And then we said or a guy who's not a he blocks it. So it says he's going to go ahead and run away. So the Gemara says he's when he's tied down. So so his friends have to come by and cut the rope or unlock him. So when it says we're talking about it's a person with saras and no one wants to get close. Asi Mitzara Chavre in Sharile. So what about his friend who's a Mitzara? He'll come and he's not scared of him because they both had Saras. We're talking about somebody who was tied up by the king. And if you go ahead and untie it, then the king is going to go ahead and get you, and therefore this person will remain locked up and he's not leaving this space. Uben Shmoina Hamunach B'choloi. So too a child of a mother who carried for 8 months, right, which we said it was not viable and therefore is not makabel tuma. But so Gemara says, so the mother is going to come and remove the baby, right? And so Gemara says b'Shabbos and Shabbos because we said basically the child is can't walk like the Walking Dead, and therefore it's a muksa. So the time is as we learn in the Brisa, ben Shmona Hareu Ke'eved v'yasa tal b'Shabbos. It's like a rock. It's usher to move on Shabbos. However, but the mother is allowed to go ahead and lean over and nurse the baby because she has produced milk and she doesn't have the child nursed from her. Then it causes a danger to her. And then we said melach, right? The salt was blocking it to be b'akas. It says so chazile b'mirsa. I'm saying you can use it. So it says. Mamirsa, right, where it's maror, where it's bitter salt. Chazilar, so you can go ahead and use it for hides. Where it says these are thorns in the salt, and therefore you can't use it to salt hides. And came in the kasha, the kaisel, shakli. But understand, the salt is not good for the walls. The owner's going to go ahead and remove it, so therefore it shouldn't be considered to be a blockage. So our answer is the yasaba chaspa, right? It's sitting like an earthenware vessel which blocks the space. The Gemara says chaspa gufa tichot. I say, okay, so the kli there, let the kli block it out. So my answer is the lesbe shear, right? That the shear of the kli is way too small. It's not going to the Mishnah. Cheres kadei litain ba patzim. So he says, kadei litain ba patzim mechaver. So the person says, if as long as it's large enough to go ahead and put it in between a small space in between, like a window, or they have these window sills, whatever. They go up and down to block the sunlight, right? They didn't have the glass there, so they have those. So and there you can put it in between. So as long as if it's not as big as that, then it would not be considered to be blocking the space. So it has to be a minimum, and therefore this is below the minimum. So you say then say klicheres kazule. So he can go ahead and use this. He said the klicheres, he can use it. He'll remove it. That was one of the things listed in the Mishnah. So when it says, but mitnaf, right? So we're talking about a case of where it was dirty. So since it was dirty, the guy's not going to go ahead and use it for his his table to eat, to put his oil or his dips in. Chazi luna. It's good for a bloodletter. Can go ahead and use it to collect blood. So where it says the minkaf, right? There's a hole in it, and therefore it can't be used. Therefore, no one's going to take it. Therefore, it blocks the tumah. Sefer Torah. So what does Sefer Torah? So where it says chazi lemikra. Sefer Torah is going to be removed. You can go ahead and read from it. The Gemara says bivloi, right? That it was old, it was withered, and therefore it's not really usable anymore for learning from. So you have to go ahead and remove it and bury it and put it away. The Gemara says, this is its place of safekeeping. It's going to remain over here by this window to block the tumah, and therefore it blocks it. And Omar Rav says, Rav, you can go ahead and make anything for a wall except for salt, because salt won't stick around. It will eventually fall down. Right, so he says, and also Revav is, I think it's fat, right? Yeah, so now that's fat that will like melt away. Ushmol Amar Afilu Malach. You could go ahead and make a wall out of salt. So as Machlekes, Rav says you cannot make a wall out of salt, and Shmuel says you do. You do. So Amar Papa V'lei think it's actually not Machlekes. Hab Melach Sedaimis. One is Melach Sedaimis. Melach Sedaimis is a stronger salt, and therefore that will endure, that will remain, and therefore that could be used as a wall. And Melach Istar Ruknis. Right, so ruknis, that type of salt did not, would wither down. I have a hashdam Rabbi Isadam. Now we said that Rabbi said Isadam Shnei Tziburi Malach Maniach Leib Koira. Now that we say that which Rabbi said, one of the cases we say, by an eruv, you have to have something going across. So what could you do? You could actually take two pillars of salt, right, and have a beam going across, because the salt holds up the beam and the beam holds up the salt. So in other words, that not necessarily the salt on its own will be everlasting and enduring, but a beam on top of it will keep the pressure in, and therefore the salt won't move away. So now that we say that, afilu melech isroiknis, you can say in that case, it's even the type of salt that normally doesn't last on its own. If there's a beam, so then you have the salt isruknis, which normally doesn't last on its own, but the beam with the pressure on top, that will be enduring. But if there is no beam, then those don't last. And the melech sedaimis, those last even on its own, even if there is no beam, because that is a stronger salt. So therefore, it's not necessarily machlekes. It was just what the situation was. Right, on its own, only sedaimis last, but with the beam, both types of salt last. And then we said, so we said over there at the bottom of the mill, you distance 3 tvachim, which is from the top, which is 4 tvachim, because it goes in a little bit. So my timer, but can't tell you because of the vibrations. I have a tan, you have a shacham, or so you say that of a mill that's powered by a donkey, right, which is not as powerful, not as strong, which doesn't necessarily shake. That's 3 from the starbel, and 4 from the top. So the Gemara says, Hasa my ego. What type of vibrations are there? Because of noise, right? I guess the the noise is disturbing to I guess to the wall, and over time, I guess that could be damaging. Or maybe it's I guess noise for the neighbor, right? I mean, Rashi doesn't say. Rashi just says what type of it is. So what?
Could be the band in the wedding hall.
Yeah. So you say. So in this case, we say the right. So the noise. I'm just curious. Does it say anything over there in the article? Let's see. All right, the noise. The wall. 13.
Shoot.
Right. That doesn't really say. All right. Fine. Right, I'm saying because it says noise, but it's not necessarily the vibrations, because we said the shaking wasn't that, right? All right, fine. So then we say, so I there's a tanur shleish min akalia shein arba me'aseva. So then an oven, right, which is 3 from the bottom and 4 from the top. So I'm a rabbi ishma min akalia the tanur tefach. We see that the stove top, right, or the part on top that goes in is 1 tefach. And what's the nafka? Right, when one sells and says, hey, this is too small, or it's not right, it's not 1 tefach or not. Therefore, we see that is the standard, and one could hold the buyer or seller responsible in that case. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, actually, we've seen some of these Gemaras. A person cannot go ahead and have an oven inside his house unless he has above his oven 4 amos of space. Right, because let's see,
he's worried about fire in the house.
Worried about fire in the house. Yeah. And Hayim Mami Dalia. So let's say the person upstairs had an oven. So if you have an oven, so now you got to protect, right, the beams in the floor from fire. So yeah, you need 3 tefachim uvakira tefach. You need to go ahead and put I guess what's it? Plaster, right? 3 tefachim under an oven, uvakira, and a stove, which is smaller, only 1 tefach. So 3 tefachim versus 1 tefach. Maybe he's
3 tefachim.
So if the guy, if the guy on top has an oven, right, heavy duty, you need 3 tefachim. 3 tefachim below. Plaster underneath it.
Right. So in other words,
so you won't cause a fire. Right. And then if it's only a stove, which is lighter, you only need 1 tefach. So 3 for an oven, 1 for a stove, right?
They knew.
Now, the hazy, but if he does, he does this, but he causes damage anyways. So Mashalim Ashizik, we actually saw this also early in Baba Sia. He pays for what he damages. If he caused damage, no, the whole point of giving these measurements is to say that if you do what you're supposed to do and it still happens, then you're putter. You're putter for paying.
Light single oven or double?
Yeah, no, single. The other one is more enclosed. It's double. Well, we'll soon see commercials even different. So that was double. I think there might be the types in English, but yeah, but one is right. So yeah, one is what?
We say these measurements that the still be putter.
You have to do it. You need to go ahead and have 4 amos above.
You have to do it.
And I did 4 amos above.
However,
and nevertheless, it was still a fire.
Right.
So I did what you told me to do. So Rishon says, why are we giving you a shear? So then don't give a shear at all. The reason why I give a shear is to say that if you do the shear, that you're not chayiv to pay. And we saw this also yesterday or today. Yeah, yesterday. A person should not go ahead and have a bakery or a dye shop in his house, right? When a person has a storehouse of grain upstairs, and also not to go ahead and raise cattle. Also has foul odors that could affect the grains in the storehouse. Well, however, but we said in truth, when it comes to wine, actually the bakery and the dye shop actually help the wine, but not the cattle. That is still foul odor for the grains, and that would not feed for the wine, and therefore that would not be permitted. Zok the Gemara. I've a Tanya, but tanner. If you go ahead and have a tanner upstairs, arba, you have 4. Vakira shleisha. That is 4 tefachim, and Akira is 3. Our Mishnah says 3 and 1, and this is saying 4 and 3. That's talking about a commercial one for a baker. That you even need more. There we according to Tanner, right? So our ovens, right, that are residential use, right, is the same as the stove for commercial use. So in our level is 1, 3. and their level is 3, 4. So therefore, they're often still different in terms of 4 versus 3, and in residential is 3 versus 1. And then we said, this person should not go ahead and, you can't have the store underneath when the guy is selling upstairs. And Tanim Heiser, but however, if the guy had his business open first downstairs, then it is permitted. So Gemara says, bye. So in other words, whoever is first is allowed to go ahead and stay. So so let's say the guy is upstairs. The guy rented the unit, second floor. He's going to move in soon. And he already cleaned it out, prepared it for a storehouse. And then quickly I open up my bakery. Mahu, what is that? Who was there first? Since he already cleaned it out, therefore it's already Shem Eitzer, or he didn't put the grain in, and therefore I can go ahead and put my bakery in. Or whatever, he already added windows for the purposes of having a storehouse. Mahu. Or let's say the guy opened up areas underneath so the foul odors won't go up and affect the grains. If that was done before he actually brought the grains in, then the guy wants to open a bakery, will that work? Or let's say he built another floor to have the storehouse on the third floor, right? And then put over there the storehouse. He built that, but he didn't put it in yet. Mahu was a halacha there. Take it. The Gemara does not have a terrace. And boy, Rav Huna, so we were talking about grains. It's going to affect the grains. But what if before he brings the grains, he brings in figs and pomegranates or dates and pomegranates? What's halacha there? So the Gemara says, once again, is that considered to be like a storehouse yet because he didn't bring the grains or not? Teku, we do not have an answer for that. And BMSB he says when it comes to wine, that all these are good except for the cattle. Right? The wine, the reason why they permitted it is because it enhances the flavor of but not the cattle, because that, has a foul odor and hurts the wine. And I'm Rav Yosef, hi, Didan, our, wine was not as strong. Even any sort of a light from a candle, smoke from a candle, small fire, that affects our wines are very sensitive, and therefore nothing can go underneath if the wines, if they're first. And our Sheish says, the aspasta, and storing aspasta, like a type of grass, very foul odors, that also destroys the grains upstairs. We'll stop here at the Mishnah. Everyone have a wonderful day. And Bez Hashem, we will, some here will start from the Mikvah. Everybody.
You plan to be here tomorrow?
No.
No chance.